Hello there. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And of course, that fine app that is free to download and free to use is brought to you by Diversus Health. Mental health and well-being for all. Yes, it will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics, but I don't have you for long because we get a little taste of what is to come, the first two games of the first four, and what may be later tonight, one of the more interesting first four games that we've ever had for all the wrong reasons. But North Carolina will take on San Diego State. So we got both games of the first four for you coming up. So we got like 90 minutes. So let's do this. 719-24-7. 1313 is the number if you'd like to interact with the show. Last night was the worst, most entertaining Nuggets game. Forget Nuggets game. Basketball game that I have seen in a long while. The Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors combined, I want to make sure I have this this number right because it was a shocking number of turnovers. The Nuggets had 40 combined turnovers last night. It was some of the worst basketball that I have ever seen, but it was also some of the most entertaining basketball I've ever seen. If you didn't watch last night's game, I would equate it. It was the room of basketball. If you are not familiar with The Room, it is a movie. It's an indie movie that has achieved cult status because of how laugh out loud terrible it is. The dialogue, the acting, it's horrible. But it's garnered such a cult following and becomes this phenomenon that James Franco did a movie about it. A movie about a movie. It was called The Disaster Artist. And if you haven't seen The Disaster Artist, you don't even have to watch The Room, although I would highly recommend it. But if you just watch The Disaster Artist, which is actually a very well done movie, but it's about this terrible movie. So The Disaster Artist, it's been out forever, years and years and years. But just in case you're looking for something to watch that maybe isn't sports. But that game last night was so bad that it was awesome. And what made it even more awesome is that the Denver Nuggets did not have Nikola Jokic, did not have Jamal Murray, did not have Christian Brown. We saw Vlatko Kanchar in an expanded role last night for the Denver Nuggets. We saw someone named Spencer Jones. And I think you and I were in the circle of trust here. I had to look him up. I didn't realize that such a player existed on the Denver Nuggets. I've never heard of this person. Spencer Jones last night got 19 minutes. And then, of course, you have Zeke. Zeke Naji only got 11 minutes. A player that continues to confound the mind. What is Zeke Naji's role? You'd think in a game last night, it would be all about Zeke Naji. I suppose when Aaron Gordon is having a career night, that was the good of last night. Aaron Gordon was spectacular. And you're reminded, oh, yeah, he used to do this in Orlando. Now, it didn't lead to a ton of Orlando success, but Aaron Gordon has a history of being a load-bearing player, of being a player that has to do everything for his team. And he had to do some of that last night because of how shorthanded the Denver Nuggets are or were. And that's the thing. I don't want this to continue. I don't want the Nuggets to have all these guys out for the Laker game. But for one night, why not? And here's the thing about it. The Warriors were healthy. It was Steph and it was Draymond and it was Jimmy Butler and this team that had been playing so well to the point where people were wondering if Golden State could be a real threat, obviously on the heels of Draymond Green guaranteeing a championship this year. Like the Warriors got some juice now. And the Nuggets, the night after, or the game after, perhaps their most embarrassing loss of the season, at home, full strength to the Washington Wizards. They turn around with a skeleton crew and beat one of the hottest teams in the NBA in their building. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. One of the worst played basketball games, featuring some of the most gobsmackingly stupid decisions with the basketball. But see, with the Nuggets, it's understandable, right? You're playing Spencer Jones extended minutes. Not surprised that the Nuggets looked a little bit. Russell Westbrook, that was his game to try and throw on his cape. He took about 10 threes, airballed half of them, and made the other half. I mean, just everything about from the Nuggets side of things was just so awesomely bad. But what is the excuse with the Warriors? It's funny. Now the shoe is on the other's foot, so to speak, because you have the Nuggets. A lot of this stuff that I was saying and many people were thinking about the Denver Nuggets after the Wizards game, they're now saying about the Warriors. How could you lose to that team at home? It's March. It's late in the season. You're trying to fight for playoff positioning. Steve Kerr, before the game, said we got to have this one or we're not going to be able to catch Denver. Because they're still thinking of potentially getting a top 4 seed. But if they didn't beat the Nuggets, now that's one team that they probably can't catch in the top 4. Like, it was an important game for the Golden State Warriors. On national television against a version of the Denver Nuggets that thankfully we have not seen a lot of. I was just looking this up. There are not a lot of games where the Nuggets have been without Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And thank goodness for that. Because I do not want to tempt fate by having Michael Malone roll out this rotation in other games remaining this season. The entire game was non-Jokic minutes without Jamal Murray to boot. And yet the Denver Nuggets, I'll use the word outplayed. The fact of the matter is, outside of Aaron Gordon, maybe a little bit Michael Porter, the Nuggets just were not as bad as the Warriors. And it was the perfect palate cleanser if you're a Nuggets fan after what happened on Saturday. Because you go into it knowing all those guys are out, and you're like, well, you have no expectation whatsoever. Maybe it caused you to tune out. Hopefully you were able to tune back in. But yeah, you see those players that are out and you're like, well, we'll kick the can down the road to the Laker game to see how the Nuggets truly respond to what happened against Washington. And you are just treated to an absolute delight of a basketball game. And here's the thing, too, about it. I don't think it's actually that surprising. Honestly. You know, the Nuggets did beat OKC without Jokic and Murray. It was a long time ago, but they did. But I don't even need to point to other examples of this. But I'm watching that game. I'm watching it play out and seeing the Denver Nuggets jump out to this huge lead. And just in my mind, without any specific examples, I'm like, I'm actually not surprised by this. It would figure that after an absolute embarrassment, that this team would come back in a game that no one gives them any chance to even be remotely competitive in, and they outright win the game. You know, I could throw in the Magnificent Seven, that game a few years ago, but they had Nikola Jokic in that game. But it reminded me of that kind where it's just like, you know, you follow this team enough, you watch them enough, and I think you sat there and you're like, even as shocking of a result as this might be across the league, you had a sense of course they're doing this. And therein lies the essence of this year's version of the Denver Nuggets. This team, I do believe, if they really put their mind to it, is capable in a one-off game of putting together a performance that you watch them and you go, that's the best team in basketball. They've had some of those kind of nights. Not a lot of them, which is kind of the whole crux of the matter, is that we haven't seen that team show up. But you know that they're capable of that anytime you tune in. Because of Nikola Jokic, because if Jamal Murray decides that he's going to be playoff Jamal in the regular season, you know that this team is capable of looking amazing. But you also know, and unfortunately these nights have outweighed the type of nights I was just mentioning, you also realize that this team can go out and look like they don't have the best player in the world. Not because Nikola Jokic is playing so bad, but the rest of the team looks so bad. And you're like, how can this team even trick themselves into thinking they're a championship contender? That was Saturday. That was just Saturday where the Nuggets look like that. They are incapable, or they are capable, I should say, of the wildest swings from pure sheer dominance to utter buffoonery. And it can happen from game to game. It happens multiple times in the season. And it's why, if you're a Nuggets fan, you've just been on a roller coaster ride for this entire season. And why you can't truly make heads or tails of this team. Because last night, and I don't want to take too many takeaways from a game like last night, because it's just, in an 82-game season, sometimes you get, well, the NBA last night was wacky all around. You had some teams losing by 40. You had teams coming back from 20 points down. But you see like Aaron Gordon play and see what he's capable of. And you're like, man, that's their fourth best player or their fourth option. I shouldn't say their fourth best player. But like the guy that is their fourth option on offense is dropping 30 on the Golden State Warriors. And you're seeing some of these young guys, and you're just like, there's something there. I don't know if it's going to be consistent enough. I don't know if ultimately the Nuggets can bring it out of them when it matters. But like you see some of the talent that they have in these younger players, the athleticism that some of these players have. And you're like, man, if they just bring, because I think the biggest thing, and Michael Malone talked about this last night, the biggest thing was just effort. They just brought effort, which they did not do the previous two games. And it is kind of infuriating, but at the same time, it just goes to my point that it's not surprising you see something like that happen last night, because the Denver Nuggets had were backed into a corner. They were the underdogs. This is a team that I think on the whole has not dealt well with prosperity, has not dealt well with the target being on their back or what it takes to continuously compete for championships and be that dynastic team that the Nuggets teased that they are hoping they would be after they won their first championship. Undermanned Lakers, Washington Wizards, Nuggets walk into the building with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray in tow, and they're like, we got this. And then they go into a game last night, and we're like, we're going to get embarrassed if we don't show up. Last night was a combination of effort and the Golden State Warriors doing exactly what the Denver Nuggets had done the previous two games. They walked in and they were salivating at the matchup. And they're like, we got this. This is going to be an easy night for us. And the try-hard, severely shorthanded Denver Nuggets ruined their evening. Easily one of the most enjoyable Nuggets games of this season. Easily. I don't know the consequence of it all, but it was a fun watch. Now, I'll take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. But, and there is a big but here, as I'm talking about how much fun that was, just a fun night, no consequence. You just sitting down and enjoying ball, played at its absolute worst. I didn't think anything of it. But apparently, that game last night irked people. And one ESPN personality presented the weirdest, most out of left field takeaway from last night's game. And I will get to that. Just getting going on this Tuesday edition of Drive Time Sports here on Extra Sports 1300. Make sure if you are free, you join me tomorrow out at Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre, just a couple of blocks from Widener Field. I will be there doing the show from 3 to 5, and a lot of other stuff going on because Trainwreck, it's not that I'm bringing a ton to the table other than myself and this show, but Trainwreck, with their 2 acres worth of indoor and outdoor entertainment, and I know tomorrow weather, we'll see. Good thing they have both indoor and outdoor entertainment, golf simulators. Certainly the food and beverage is worth coming by. So hope to see you out there, and then you're in the right place to watch the second half of the first 4 or whatever else is on the television, because they have a stadium-sized television at Trainwreck. So love to see you out there from 3 to 5 tomorrow. Speaking of the NCAA tournament, so I'm going through my bracket here. I know I'm too upset heavy. I know it. I can feel it. I have too many upsets. What this stage of college basketball is like on the men's side with NIL is that it's almost like, what we're seeing in baseball, right? The gaps between the haves and the have-nots are growing, but the number of haves are growing as well. So what you see here, especially when you look at the top lines with Florida and Houston and Duke and what Auburn is capable of being, what they have shown at times this season. Well, even as St. John's, I mean, look at how quickly it's come together for Rick Pitino. And you look at some of the teams on the 2 line, Michigan State, Tom Izzo's back with Sparty, and Alabama. I'm one that doesn't normally like Alabama, not anything against the school or the state. It just that basketball team and the way they play, but I don't like to back Alabama going too deep in the tournament under Nate Oates. But I think there are more teams that are worthy of winning it all than we have had in years past. But because there are more halves, I feel like this is going to be a fairly chalky NCAA tournament. And I'm going through my bracket, and I'm like, I really like UC San Diego. Ooh, I like Yale. I think New Mexico might be able to win. You know how I feel about the Rams and what they have been doing lately. Love the Drake. Who doesn't love the Drake? Liberty, VCU. I'm looking at all these teams. I'm like, I can't pick them all. There's no way we will have that many upsets. So I really have 2 choices, as we all are confronted with when we're filling out our brackets. Do we protect ourselves by making sure that these upsets, we don't turn some of these upset-minded teams into Cinderellas and ruin our brackets? Or do we say there's no way, we got to be more discerning when it comes to the upsets? I'll give you an example. The biggest liability I have in my bracket is Auburn's region. I love UC San Diego, and I am not backing off of that. But I also can't back off of Yale. With Yale's 3-point shooting, Texas A&M is not a good perimeter defense. And I know 3-point variant, like teams that shoot a lot of threes, that make a lot of threes, they can go cold. And then they get boat raced. And I know there's that with UC San Diego. That's the team that I have scoring an upset in the first round that I am maybe most confident in, because they are old, they have really good guard play, they are balanced offensively, and they play good defense. And they're a 30-win basketball team. And I don't care what conference you play in. You win 30 basketball games in one season, like, you're good. And I'm thinking UC San Diego is meeting up with Michigan. Okay? They're going to play in Denver. And Michigan's claim to fame, what they're bringing to the table are two giant human beings. And I'm thinking, if UC San Diego gets up and down the floor a little bit at altitude, and I know UC San Diego, they have to deal with the altitude just like Michigan does. In fact, I heard an interview with this morning with Dusty May, formerly of FAU. That's now the head coach at Michigan. And he was joking, like, we actually have an advantage in altitude because Ann Arbor's like 500 and something feet above sea level, and San Diego's like 2 feet above sea level. It's funny. And you got to, look, you got to find a way. I don't blame him. Like, this altitude thing, I know it's real. Every athlete I talk to, it's a real thing. But you have to guard against making it more than what it really is. Your lungs are going to be burning a little bit. It's going to be an adjustment, but you can't make it consume you, because that's what the Nuggets try to do by putting 5280 everywhere and by doing the warning before the game starts. Switchbacks do it too. We're at the highest elevation of any soccer stadium in North America. There's a psychological aspect to it, but trying to take that part out of it. If you see San Diego with their athleticism, their guard play, can get up and down the floor a little bit, I think they can take Michigan's bigs out of it to an extent on the defensive end, because that's what you worry about. Right? The rim protection in the defense that Michigan presents with two giants. But, I look at Michigan in the same way I looked at many of Matt Painter's teams at Purdue. I know they got, because Zach Edey was so exceptional and such a matchup nightmare. He was so different, even in the mold of what Matt Painter has had in that Purdue program in the past. But what happens usually to Purdue teams? They flame out, and their lack of guard play and their over-reliance on low post play and bigs hurts them at some point in the tournament. And with how balanced UC San Diego is, how much of a veteran group they are, that's the upset that I'm like, I could be wrong, but I feel the best about it. But then I look at Yale and A&M. I'm like, I think Yale wins. And now I have UC San Diego and Yale matching up in the second round. Got to put one of them through. All of a sudden, I have a double-digit seed in the Sweet 16 in what I expect to be a pretty chalky tournament overall. And I also think the most susceptible one seed to fall first could be Auburn. It's like, man, am I going to put UC San Diego into the Elite Eight? What am I doing? And then I have New Mexico on the bottom side of the bracket. Now I've protected a little bit because I don't think they get by Michigan State. But that's the one where I went the most upset happy. But I have too many. I have too many upsets. I can already tell right now I have too many, and that's what drives me nuts. I would rather err on the side of caution, err on the side of chalkiness, and enjoy the upsets than to try and call my shot in 6 or 7 games. And then that's always how my bracket gets busted. I pick too many upsets. I think I'm sticking with UC San Diego and Yale. I am. And I'll tell you this too. I love the way CSU is playing. The more I dive into their matchup with Memphis and their potential next matchup against Maryland, I don't like their path. I don't. And that's another conflict that comes up when you're filling out these brackets. I love this team, but I hate their path. Rams got really tough. I think I'll have them beating Memphis, but losing to Maryland. But I think CSU is capable of winning multiple games. Maryland and Memphis, those are 2 tough teams. That's kind of where I'm at. But couple of matchups down the road that I'm having a real tough time on. Houston versus Gonzaga. All Mark Few does is get to the Sweet 16. That's all this dude does. And I know this Gonzaga team is not the Gonzaga teams of years past. And Houston's really good. Houston's a legit national championship contender. I can't get around that one. And then I think Florida, Texas Tech in what would be the regional final. I'm stuck on that one. But I have become enamored with Florida like the rest of the country. And no one has seen their title odds move up as much as Florida has. Everybody watched the SEC tournament because of all the talk around how good the SEC has been this year. And then you watch the Gators just ran roughshod through that conference. But I like Texas Tech. So just some thoughts. And one more thing for tonight's game. 2 things can be true. It can be true that North Carolina did not in any way, shape, or form deserve to be included in this tournament. And they can win multiple games. And they are the only team being singled out. If motivation is part of the game here, the psychological edge, North Carolina tonight, everybody is rooting against them. The whole world is against North Carolina. Would you be shocked if they rattled off a couple of wins? Even though you look at them and you're like, they're not good enough. They didn't deserve to be in the tournament. It's kind of like the Nuggets game. Like every reason, every sane thought you have in your head says they're not good enough. And if they're not good enough, then they should be bounced quickly from the tournament. But how many times have we seen where conventional wisdom and groupthink goes one direction and then the results the other? North Carolina tonight against San Diego State. I do think North Carolina beats San Diego State, but North Carolina might be capable of more. And they have all the motivation they need because of me, because of other people in this line of work that are chastising and crying foul play with North Carolina getting into the tournament. Want to hear about your brackets. Your bets, your brackets, your fantasy football team. Normally, you walk around the halls at work, you talk to your family, they don't care. I'm telling you, I care. I want to know what you got in your bracket. I want to know the bets you're making for round 1. Talk more about them throughout this show, and then obviously tomorrow at Trainwreck, that'll be a big discussion going on. 719-24-7-1313. I care about you, Avs fans. I do. And I would hate to see your heart broken. More scuttlebutt on the interwebs about Gabriel Landeskog. It's reached a fever pitch now. It's getting to the point where people are expecting Gabriel Landeskog to be back out on the ice. We're back to this stage, and we've gone through the cycle like 8 different times in this Gabriel Landeskog saga. He's definitely coming back. Oh, maybe not, but definitely next time he will be. Now I don't know if he's ever coming back. Well, now he might be coming back. Now he definitely is coming back. How many times have we gone around around the sun with this? And I'm scrolling through social media. I'm listening to other shows, and it's getting to the point that if Gabriel Landeskog isn't out on the ice by game 1 of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, people are going to throw themselves off of a building. Figuratively, of course. Even today, I saw, and I'm trying like crazy to sleuth this thing out in the 4 minutes I have during a break. Ryan Bolding, who covers the Avs, apparently overheard Gabriel Landeskog joking with the equipment guy, make sure you have my pads or equipment ready for when I play on Wednesday. Like, even now, Gabriel Landeskog's getting in on it. What happens if he doesn't? But I will say this for the situation. I have let go of the idea that the team is impacted by this. I think it has become so commonplace, so routine for them, the Gabriel Landeskog of it all, that I don't think that they are clinging to hope the way that the fan base is. I think they have the right perspective of, we got to act as if he's not coming back. And if he comes back, then awesome. And I think that's the right way for everybody involved, except maybe Gabriel Landeskog. Like, he's got to keep saying, I'm coming back, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. I don't think it's the distraction to the team that it once was. And I think that's part because we've gone through this cycle multiple times, right? And you get the anticipation level up, and then you get crushed by it. And for these mentally strong NHL players, they're just like, we got to block it out. So I think it's not affecting them. I think now it is purely the fan base. But I will also say that the fan base has been overall pretty restrained about what that looks like. I think it's now just people want to see the story have that happy ending, especially now with the documentary. They just want him back out on the ice in a game. That's it. I think people have let go of the notion that Gabriel Landeskog is going to come back and he's going to be his old self, that he's going to be a huge contributor. I think everyone is just right now rooting for the story of Gabriel Landeskog undergoing this procedure after a freak injury, battling all of this time to come back and be out on the ice. Because I had to push back against that, because there are people like, well, when they get Gabriel Landeskog back, then they could put Landeskog and McKinnon and Rantanen back together, and then you put Nichushkin and Lehkonen on the second line. And it's like, I had to push back against that. Gabriel Landeskog, one thing that I think we can all agree on, he's not going to be the player he once was. Even if he had been healthy this whole time, it would be reasonable to say Gabriel Landeskog 3 years later may not be the same player he was 3 years prior. But yet there was this sense of him being this missing piece. And he's not going to be. He's going to be a phenomenal story if he comes back. It is going to be a boost to the morale around the Colorado Avalanche. And if that's all it is, I think at this point, you take it. With the inevitable after this season, you got to figure out what the path is forward. You have to. Whether he plays or whether he doesn't. You got to have a serious conversation about that contract. And I know the CBA is difficult. I don't know what the Avs can do. I'm not a general manager. But there's got to be some resolution to this. And that's coming this offseason, whether he plays or not. But if Gabriel Landeskog comes back and gives the Avs a little bit of an emotional boost going into what's going to be a very difficult first-round series against the Dallas Stars, great, because they need every edge they can get against Dallas. I don't think that they'll put Gabriel Landeskog on the top line. I think they'll bury him. Bury him is probably not the right word, but I think they put him on a lower line, maybe a couple of shifts, maybe with McKinnon. But I don't think Jared Bednar is going to upset the apple cart because he has to work so much to integrate Brock Nelson. And he still, although it doesn't look like Valeri Nichushkin needs any more time to get, reacclimated to the team, but it hasn't been that long since he's come back. You got Ryan Lindgren on the back end. Soon they're going to have to work back in Josh Manson, Natchez, and Drury. I don't think that on his most important lines that Jared Bednar is going to jeopardize any chemistry he has been able to form or will be able to form between now and the playoffs to put Gabriel Landeskog back in that role. And the good news is I don't know how physical Gabriel Landeskog can be as a player, but part of what makes him a great captain is he is highly skilled, but he's also gritty. So he can fit that third liner wing type role. I think that would be, if he does come back, that would be because obviously fewer minutes, not messing with the chemistry of a more significant line. But we'll see. I'm still where I'm at. It's like me with my too many upsets in the in my bracket. Like, I would much rather be on the side of no, this is not going to happen, and then just enjoy it happening. Like the Nuggets game last night. I tuned in expecting to half pay attention as the Golden State Warriors rolled over the Denver Nuggets. And when that didn't happen, it made it a more enjoyable experience. But it's building. It is the biggest topic of conversation. How quickly it moved from Mikko Rantanen's return to Denver. And that story did not linger past yesterday morning. I mean, we talked about it because it was our first opportunity to yesterday during the show. But like everyone was, all right, Mikko came back. All right, Avs win. Good. Gabriel Landeskog, when's he coming back? Avs out on the road, obviously, with the NCAA tournament this week at Ball Arena. And we'll see. It's building. And it's getting to the point where it'd be a significant letdown if Gabriel Landeskog does not get back out on the ice. And that's what I worry about. 719-247 1313. Coming up next, as fun as last night was, as much of a party as it was for the shorthanded Denver Nuggets to knock off the red-hot Golden State Warriors, somebody had to ruin the fun, and it's no surprise that he works for ESPN. Welcome in, Drive Time Sports. Ryan Kaufman with you. The first of the first four coming up later this hour. A lot of eyeballs going to be on North Carolina and San Diego State, or at least interested parties to see how that whole thing plays out. But we got both games, well, all four games of the first four include, and then on to the tournament right here on Extra Sports 1300, if you would like to listen. 719-247-1313 is the number. You could call or text it in. So last night, the Denver Nuggets severely shorthanded, and it was a surprise. I did not realize that Jokic and Murray weren't going to play. But I watched because it is my job. It is my duty. But once I heard that those players were going to be out, I'm like, my goodness, the way that the Warriors are playing lately, they're going to roll over the Nuggets. And the fact that this plucky group of Nuggets was able to not just win. I mean, they let go of the rope a little bit there towards the end, but they were in control that entire game over a team that had been playing some of the best basketball of any team in the NBA. How could you not enjoy what you were seeing? I get it. You want to see Nikola Jokic play because he's the best player in the world. And it was a marquee matchup, right? Golden State playing great. Denver, one of the perceived title favorites, potential first-round matchup. Like, I get it. I felt the disappointment when I saw the injury report. But I watched the game, and I was like, this is awesome. This is almost better. Perhaps I'm just looking at it from the Nuggets' perspective, because clearly some people were not just upset or disappointed about what happened last night. May I present to you the most upset member of the media today, ESPN's Tim Bontemps. This is from Get Up this morning.
It's a horrible look for the league. This is why the NBA put in the player participation policy. They literally put in rules that said if you're playing in a national televised game, especially on the road, your stars are supposed to play. Nikola Jokic plays all the time. I just saw him in Boston recently. He's been banged up with a bunch of stuff. You could look ahead at the schedule if you're the Nuggets. They play the Washington Wizards, the worst team in the league, at home on Saturday. Sit these guys in that game, have them ready to go for today's game and Wednesday's game against the Lakers. I was at the Garden last night getting ready for this game. Cassie Hubbard texted me in the fourth quarter and said, you see who's Denver's playing? I said, I think everybody's playing. They sent me the injury report. Half the guys are out. It's just a horrible look for the league, and it's a horrible situation because I was excited to see what I could learn from Golden State playing these guys. Instead, they have everybody out, and even though they lost, like, the game doesn't matter.
That might be the weirdest take I have heard. Coming from somebody who is employed by the same company as Kendrick Perkins, who every day churns out a more ridiculous take than the day before. It takes quite a bit to take the belt from Kendrick Perkins when it comes to the most ridiculous Nuggets-centric thing that I have heard on ESPN. But Tim Bontemps, you have wrestled it away from Big Perk. The idea that you would like to hold up the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic as somehow the poster child for what is wrong with the league. You talk about cherry picking. A situation like we saw last night never happens. Nikola Jokic, despite Michael Malone time and time again wanting to rest him, refuses. He is a guy that refuses to be load managed, insists on playing through injury. The guy has been hobbling for 2 weeks. And the way I perceived it was finally either Michael Malone got through to him or Nikola Jokic, even as much as he wants to tough things out, was like, I'm just not right. 3 games in 4 days, it's my limit. I got to sit out. You are going in a league where the Oklahoma City Thunder rested their entire starting 5 one game, where the Philadelphia 76ers can't get people on the floor, in a league with Ben Simmons, in a league where LeBron James gets to randomly leave the Los Angeles Lakers for weeks at a time and go watch his son play basketball, and good on him for being a good dad. But like LeBron, this is the second time he's just up and disappeared. And the excuse that the Lakers give is he's got a groin injury. Well, didn't look like LeBron had a groin injury when he's jumping up and down, rooting on his son. Nikola Jokic has been hobbling up and down the court for 2 weeks. And finally, the Nuggets get through to him and say, dude, you got to sit down. We need you. We need you beyond this game. And that is going to be the game where everyone sharpens their knives against the biggest perpetrator of load management, the Denver Nuggets. That is a ridiculous sentence. But this is the world we're living in. That is beyond stupid. Everything about the Nuggets is anti-establishment. Everything that people believe that the NBA is, the Nuggets are counter to it. They have a superstar that could not care less about social media, about endorsements. He is the anti-superstar. They have their second best player who doesn't care about putting up big numbers during the regular season. He's not stat padding. He's not stat chasing. And it infuriates us. We want more Jamal Murray in the regular season. We want the guy that we see in the postseason to show up during the regular season. Can't be bothered. You have a superstar that is always available, that would never be under any risk of being disqualified from any postseason award based on not reaching that threshold. Nikola Jokic plays pretty much every night. Jamal Murray, to his credit, and as much as I think rightly criticize Jamal Murray for some things, dude's tough. Dude battles through things. If he can't play, if he's not out there, he's really hurt. And my problem with it is it seems like he's hurt too much. But I give the guy credit. He plays through a lot of his injuries. In a league where everyone's jacking up threes, the Denver Nuggets take the fewest threes of any team. They work the ball around. They drive to the basket. They play through a true center. Although Nikola Jokic, in the traditional sense, is not a true center, but his size and where he plays on the floor. My point is, the Denver Nuggets could not be further away from the team that you want to take shots at for load management. When Adam Silver put these rules into place, he was not thinking of the Denver Nuggets. And the idea that you would use that game, which is as isolated of an incident with the Denver Nuggets as it's been in years. Like, how many times have they been in without Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic for the same game? But because Tim Bontemps doesn't bother, apparently, to watch the Denver Nuggets any other game and only watches them when he knows he's going to get up the next day and be on ESPN talking about the game that was on ESPN the night before, he's upset. I get it. I understand why the rule is in place. And I'm a proponent of the rule. I don't like load management. I understand it to an extent, but I get that the NBA has to push against it as much as possible. But to hold up the Nuggets as almost like there was a tone of, well, there was definitely a tone of how dare they, but a tone of like they do this. That's the sense I got. And they so don't do this ever. And by the way, not to get all technical here, but there are some criteria for the rule that Tim Bontemps is referring to. Because the NBA doesn't care if, let's say, Christian Brown doesn't play last night. They don't care. Heck, Christian Brown, Michael Porter, the entire Nuggets bench, they don't care about any of those guys. Nuggets could rest 8 players if they wanted to and would not run afoul of the league. The key is stars. Well, how do you quantify stars? Can't be subjective. You got to make it as objective as possible. So what do they look at? All-Star game appearances, MVPs. Guess who meets that criteria on the Denver Nuggets? One guy. And you cannot be in violation of the league's rules for resting one of those guys. It's when you have 2 on a league built on all-star duos. The NBA doesn't want you to rest your duo at the same time. If Steph's not playing, Clay will play. If Kevin Durant's not playing, Devin Booker will play. And I know this is not the case anymore, but if Luka doesn't play, Kyrie plays. Now it's if Luka doesn't play, LeBron plays. Like that's what puts the antenna of the league up, is when you have a star duo that has accomplished the things that would make them a star, they sit out. The Nuggets aren't even in violation of the rule, even if you thought they were actually just load managing last night, which if you watch the Denver Nuggets leading up to that game, I don't think it was load management. I think it was, we are banged up and we need to get these guys rested and reset things a little bit. And maybe I'm being too Pollyannish. Maybe there was a nefarious plan in place by Michael Malone. But even let's say that was last night was straight out load management. They don't even qualify to be in violation of that rule because Jamal Murray, under their own rules, is not a star. They got one guy. So it just makes it even weirder that this guy is going to go on ESPN and say what he said. To go after the Denver Nuggets, who are way down on the list of potential offenders of this rule, who don't even have a good enough team to be considered in violation of this rule. This is who you're going to go to the mat. You're going to beat down the Denver Nuggets because you are looking forward to seeing and notice how he phrased it at the end. I wanted to see how the Golden State Warriors played against these guys. I'm not tuning in to see Jokic. I'm tuning in to see how Steph Curry and Jimmy and Draymond match up. He's upset that he didn't get to fully gauge Golden State. That's what he's upset about. What a load of BS from this guy. And I have no reason to think that he has any bias against the Denver Nuggets. I just think he woke up this morning, knew he had to be on ESPN. Maybe his plans were he was going to talk about how dangerous the Golden State Warriors could be in the Western Conference. Well, now he can't judge because the Nuggets didn't have their best team out there. And he's like, okay, well, I got to pivot. So here you go. How dare you, Denver Nuggets? Shame on you. What a bizarre, weird, garbage take from a network that has the all-time king of those kind of takes when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. I mean, just raining on the parade. Last night was fun. And then he rained on. I was shocked when somebody showed me that clip. I thought I was being sentineled. No way that somebody is going to the mat chastising the Denver Nuggets for load managing. Nobody that covers the NBA on a regular basis could be that dense to think that the Nuggets are a team that would exploit this rule. Or that they could. Or that they even could. They can't. They got one good player, right? They got Jokic. They got one star. Jamal Murray's not a star. So who cares if they sit him down? Bizarre. Take your thoughts on it. 719-247-1313. Don't forget, first four coming up here shortly on Extra Sports 1300. Your reaction to Tim Bontemps. If you did not hear what he had to say or heard it in the last segment, here's a snippet of what he said this morning on Get Up about the Nuggets not playing Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
It's a horrible look for the league. This is why the NBA put in the player participation policy. They literally put in rules that said if you're playing in a national televised game, especially on the road, your stars are supposed to play. Nikola Jokic plays all the time.
They only have one player
recently. He's been banged up
that
with a bunch of
qualifies
stuff.
as a star.
You could look ahead at the schedule.
So he doesn't have a technical argument, but the spirit of the argument is what I have a bigger issue with. Because even though Jamal Murray is not what the NBA would classify as a star under this situation with all-star game appearances, all-NBA teams, MVPs, those kind of things, when you tune into the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray is a player that you would like to see. And that's the heart of what they just got to find some way to quantify it. They can't rank the two best players on every team and say these are the two that you can't rest at the same time. Which, by the way, do we know that they're resting? Is this load management? Because if it's load management, then the one thing that he says that I can actually get behind is why last night and not the second night of a back-to-back against Washington. My guess is perhaps that was after the way they had played the night before. Michael Malone wanted his big guys out there. That was a win that he felt like they could definitely get. And Monday was going to be more difficult. So if that was the game for Nikola Jokic, or maybe Nikola Jokic just wasn't feeling right. And Jamal Murray, it's like, my goodness, he misses enough time. It's not shady when Jamal Murray misses a game. So even when I try to meet Tim Bontemps more than halfway, I still can't get there. The Nuggets are not a team that is known for load management. Nikola Jokic is a player that demands to be in the lineup every single night. Juxtaposed with his sidekick that you can routinely say is injured. So it's not a shock. When you hear hoof beats, you think horse, not zebra. If Jamal Murray's missing a game, I assume he's hurt because he's done that before. And I'm not trying to turn this into disparaging Jamal Murray, but we've seen him miss games enough. I can't even begin down the path of seeing where Tim Bontemps is coming from. I can't. And what I'm more upset about than anything else is that it's kind of killing the vibe after what was maybe the most enjoyable Nuggets watching experience of the entire year. Is that selfish on my part? You're damn right it is. But I'm upset because I so enjoyed last night. And then I got to deal with this horrendous take the very next day. And it's like you're ruining what happened last night. Last night was beautiful. It was beautiful chaos and beautiful, terrible basketball. And you're ruining it. Take some of your thoughts. From the 719, that guy and Perkins are two idiots that praise LeBron for sitting 40 games a year and making more than everybody else. And LeBron, I know LeBron's the easy target to get to. Like, oh, what about LeBron? I think I am more fair to LeBron than most people. The guy right now is not even with the team. The second time this season that he has been allowed not just to miss games, but to be completely away from the team. And nobody says boo about that. He's earned that. How about a guy that plays basically 80 games every single year, deserving one night after he's been limping up and down the court the last 2 weeks to get one night off? Like, what about that? Nikola Jokic hasn't earned it, but LeBron has. I would argue that they both have earned a night off every once in a while. So I'm not bringing this up to disparage LeBron James. I'm just saying, look at this picture here. Nikola Jokic can't get a night off when he's clearly banged up if you've been watching him. And LeBron not only gets to miss games, but gets to be completely away from the Los Angeles Lakers. If this is all about the fans, if LeBron's not playing, the next best thing is, especially if I have really good expensive seats, can my kids actually see the guy? Maybe wave to him? So if this is all about the fans and this is all about making sure that the fans get what they pay for, I understand that players get hurt. I even understand to an extent load management. But how about if you're wanting to bring your kids to a game that LeBron, and it's like, sorry guys, LeBron's not playing. But you still have good seats. Maybe you can see him. Maybe you could wave. Maybe you could say hi. That goes a long way with the young fans. Can't even do that because LeBron gets to go to Germany or wherever he's going. And a guy that should be a 4-time MVP hasn't earned one night off when he plays 80, 81 games every single year and carries this basketball team every single night. It's just dumb. Ill-informed. And kind of feeds in to what we normally talk about when it comes to ESPN. And we wonder sometimes if they even watch the Denver Nuggets or understand the Denver Nuggets at all. And then you say this and you're like, how much have you watched the Denver Nuggets this year? It kind of feeds into the perception around these parts about ESPN. And I'm sure a lot of fan bases feel that way about ESPN, for the record. Nuggets aren't unique in that. Dave, actually a really interesting question. Do you think nights like last night make Calvin Booth look better than Coach Malone? I think I would take it in a different direction. Nights like last night underscore how the Denver Nuggets are divided against itself. Nights like last night, because we know what last night was. It was a one-shot deal. Put that same team out on the court tomorrow night against the Los Angeles Lakers, and they're going to get smacked around. So let's not put too much into what last night was. But with these younger players, and I've said this before, with Jalen Pickett in the spells that he's been able to play, and Zeke Naji, you look and you're like, maybe Calvin Booth wasn't completely insane. But it underscores how if the Nuggets just chose a lane and said, you know what? For better or worse, we're developing these young guys. Najee, Pickett, Strother, Watson, we're rolling with these guys. That's our bench unit. And we're going to make the best of it. And it may cost us along the way, but we're in it for the development. Maybe these guys would be further along. Maybe they'd actually be contributors. The one guy that kind of bucks this trend was Christian Brown, because Michael Malone trusted him early on and played him. And then look at what he's become. So it's like if they had a clear vision of what they would do to navigate this championship window, And part of it was we're fully investing in these young guys. Maybe these guys are playing at a higher level at this point. But they're kind of caught between two things where playing them is ultimately going to cost them games. And I think we can all acknowledge that playing young players in any sport runs the risk of costing you games. But Michael Malone last year wasn't willing to do that. And then none of these guys were ready to help this year. So maybe I don't think it makes Michael Malone look bad, because I think I don't think it's that Michael Malone can't coach these guys up. I think he doesn't want to. And does that really reflect poorly on him? Because he wants to win games. He wants to try and win championships. So I don't know that it reflects poorly on Michael Malone, but perhaps some of the heat that has gone Calvin Booth's way for whiffing so badly on Zeke Naji or whiffing on Jalen Pickett, maybe that's not entirely accurate. Maybe there is something there. And with Peyton Watson, I certainly feel like there's something there. And with Julian Strawther, I feel like there's something there. I don't know that it makes Calvin Booth look better than the way many people view him. I will say that. I don't know. I think it's more about how this organization is kind of fighting against itself of how they navigate this championship window. And you see these guys get a chance to flourish and you're like, man, might have something. I mean, not the next great superstar, but they're just at odds with each other. And that hasn't changed, right? That was the story end of last season, during the offseason, early this season. And I'll leave it on this. A bit of levity from Steve. That's it. Trade Joker, Murray, and Brown for 8 first-round picks and win the NBA title anyway. You know, I did think at some point last night, watching that game, the bad take that I thought ESPN would come out with today was not what Tim Bontemps said. I thought it was going to be legitimately, because with ESPN, their hot takery knows no bounds. I thought for a fleeting moment that somebody, probably Kendrick Perkins, was going to go onto their airwaves and say, see, Nikola Jokic isn't the be-all, end-all for the Denver Nuggets. They have other good players, as a way to say, because the biggest knock against Shea is that, well, of course Oklahoma City has this right. They're not there because of just Shea. He has this great team around him, right? Because Nikola Jokic is clearly doing more with less. Well, if you can argue that Nikola Jokic actually has more than we have been led to believe, then perhaps you make more of a case for SGA. See what ESPN has done to us? I actually thought somebody was going to say, because of that win last night, maybe Nikola Jokic actually has more help. Or are the Nuggets too dependent on Nikola Jokic? Would they be better off if they played through some of these other players? Like, all bets are off when it comes to the 4-letter network. I'll tell you that much. All right. That's going to do it. Before I go, though, one important word from Low T Center. Let's talk for a moment about feeling your best. If you don't feel that same energy, strength, maybe you're feeling moody or seems you've lost your drive with your partner, it could be low testosterone. Testosterone therapy may be the answer, and you'll find true experts at Low T Center. Getting tested is fast and easy. And then if you know that it's low T after you get tested, know that you're in the right place to get a personalized low T treatment at Low T Center. Don't settle for the standard dosage TRT program that you're going to find elsewhere. Go to lowtcenter.com to book an appointment. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. Appreciate your patronage. Don't forget, tomorrow at 3, I will be out at Trainwreck 812 South Sierra Madre. Would love to see you out there as well. Coming up right now, the first of the first 4 here on Extra Sports 1300.